Homage to the original teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. We are born into this life, into this world. We find ourselves in a situation that is neither completely good nor completely evil. Right within the mind of each person, we are torn between good and evil. And right here in this world, there are good people and evil people constantly jostling, pushing, and clashing with one another. It is precisely because our minds are still a mixture of good and evil that our karma has led us to be born into a realm like this. When you look at the big picture, it can sometimes seem that evil people outnumber the good. Therefore, this realm is a complicated realm, a realm of testing. If in this realm we can rise above, if we can firmly hold on to the morality and holiness within our hearts, then we will journey to a good realm, a realm of truly virtuous people. There, we will live in a world where everyone understands each other, everyone trusts each other, everyone loves each other. We will be extremely happy. True happiness is precisely this. Not having to worry about dealing with the people around you because you know that every single person is trustworthy, every single person is worthy of respect. But if, in this realm full of challenges we cannot overcome, if we are defeated by the primal instinct to win, then we will be born into a place where evil prevails. All around us are only enemies. If you let your guard down for even a moment, they will kill you instantly. To live in a realm where you are surrounded only by malicious people is to be extremely sorrowful. Therefore, happiness and sorrow are, in a very real way, connected to the beings who surround us. Why do we love returning to the temple? Why do we love returning to our dear spiritual family? Because we realize one thing: when we come back to the temple, back to our Dharma brothers and sisters, our hearts are freed from the burden of having to deal with others. Our spiritual family gives us a sense of peace. Returning to the temple, our teacher and the Sangha of monks and nuns give us that same sense of peace. We don't have to deal with anyone. We no longer have to fear any hidden plots, any calculations, any exploitation. We simply come here to live in peace, in serenity with the Buddha's teachings, and in mutual trust. Whatever the temple has to eat, we eat. If there are vegetables, we eat vegetables. If there is salt, we eat salt. Though, that said, if there are only vegetables and salt, it's quite sad. So we still try to cook it well. If we have money, we make offerings. If we don't, we don't. Absolutely no one forces us to do anything. We are free from the fear of being plotted against, calculated or exploited by the temple or our Dharma family. And this is happiness. But this happiness also demands morality from the temple itself. For example, a temple subsists on the offerings of lay followers. But if the monastics in that temple allow their minds to stir with the desire for just a few more offerings, the temple immediately feels unsettled. When we visit, we instantly feel a sense of unease. But if the monastics in the temple possess a moral mind, if they have let go of all things and do not crave offerings, thinking, if our dear lay followers have the means, they offer. If not, that's fine. Then when we step into that temple, we immediately feel a sense of peace. It is a natural, spiritual resonance. It's the same with our Dharma family. In the outside world, we face so much exhaustion. But returning to the temple and meeting our spiritual brothers and sisters, we sense with our inner heart that everyone who comes here has laid down their selfishness, their calculations, their rivalries, their schemes. When we meet, the look in our eyes, our greetings, our smiles, all are sincere, all are kind. Our hearts immediately feel a surge of joy, a surge of happiness. Therefore, under the temple roof, within a Dharma community where people practice the Buddha's teachings correctly, the very first merit we create is bringing happiness to one another. It may not seem like something grand, but simply through the morality each person contributes, we bring joy and happiness to each other. That is within the temple. But step outside, and the world out there is extremely complicated. We have to deal with things, calculate, compete, and be constantly on guard. How can we live amidst this mix of good and evil people, dealing with them, calculating, without becoming evil ourselves? This is very difficult, because typically in dealing with evil people, we easily become evil in turn. There is a story of a knight, a swordsman. After bidding farewell to his master, he went out into the world to uphold justice and vanquish evil. When he returned 10 years later, he could not enter the temple gates. Why? Because the gates would not open for him. His soul had been stained for 10 years fighting evil. He thought he was helping the world, but he never realized that in fighting evil people, he had gradually become evil himself. We are the same. Our great difficulty is that we live in a world where good and evil are intertwined. We must deal with so much, yet we must not allow ourselves to become evil. To achieve this, we must practice diligently. Every day we must chant the sutras, prostrate to the Buddha, and contemplate what is good. Every day we must strive to perform meritorious deeds. It is only through the silent, unseen protection of the Buddhas that we can recognize our own faults the very moment they arise. Because truly, it is very difficult to see our own faults. Very difficult without the Buddha's protection. There is a realm that many people dream of being born into, the heavenly realm. Nearly every religion speaks of it, and Buddhism does as well. When we leave this physical body, it is not the end. Death is not the end. We simply transition from this form of life to another because that is a natural law of the universe. Nothing is ever truly lost. What we perceive as lost is only seen through our ordinary, unenlightened eyes. A person who dies is not truly gone. They still carry their inner consciousness and, most importantly, their accumulation of merit and karma. After death, they are drawn to a place that corresponds to the karma they created while alive. Those people who, in this world, lived extremely well, were extremely noble, extremely kind, and I use the word extremely on purpose, not just a little bit. You cannot be just a little bit good, a little bit kind, or a little bit moral and expect to reap the reward of a happy realm after death. You must be extremely, extremely, extremely good. If a person possesses that extreme goodness, that level of virtue, then according to the natural and impartial laws of the universe, they will surely be born into a very happy place. We call that place the heavenly realm, the celestial world. But right now, because we are not dead, we cannot see or know this realm. And precisely because we cannot see or know it, we are filled with doubt. Some religions demand that their followers simply believe with all their heart and soul. To not believe is to be sinful. You are forced to believe. Other people, who do not belong to a religion, feel no compulsion to believe and no one forces them. We Buddhists, however, understand the heavenly realm in a different way, which we will analyze shortly. So, the existence of heavenly or other realms after death is something we cannot see, and therefore we are unsure whether to believe. We only hear the stories and the teachings, and we adopt one of a few attitudes. To recap, there are three main viewpoints on the heavenly realms. First is the folk viewpoint, which is actually quite accurate. People in the world, even without deep religious knowledge, speak of a heaven, but their concept of heaven is very gentle and practical. It means that in life, everyone must work hard to make a living. You can't just sit around praying for food to magically appear. You have to plow, plant, and work to survive. That is our own responsibility, not heaven's. However, for things that fall beyond human control, people immediately attribute them to heaven because they can't explain them. For example, you're walking outside on a beautiful day, and suddenly lightning strikes and kills someone. People say heaven struck them down. It was beyond anyone's control. Or you find a lottery ticket, put it in your pocket, and a few days later discover it's a winner. People say it was a gift from heaven. It was beyond your calculation or control. Or a woman gets married to a man who seems wonderful at first, but soon after the wedding, his personality completely changes and he and his family make her life miserable. This unexpected change is beyond her control, so people say heaven is tormenting her. These are things that cannot be rationally explained, so they are all attributed to heaven. Things that can be explained remain our own responsibility. This is the folk view, and it's quite reasonable. A second viewpoint emerges when people become too intelligent. They sit and ponder, if a divine realm exists, it must be more formidable than what the folk believe. They are so clever that they begin to construct elaborate theories upgrading the role of heaven. In politics, we call this escalating the narrative. For example, you see a man walking back and forth in front of your house. You immediately conclude, he's planning to rob me. In reality, he used to live in that house as a child and is just walking by, shyly trying to reconnect with his memories. But you have escalated the narrative and are now standing at your gate with a weapon. It's not real. In the same way, some very intelligent people have escalated the narrative of heaven. Heaven becomes an absolute omnipotent power. Why are you sitting here? Heaven told me to. Why are you eating porridge? Heaven commanded it. Why do you have a second wife? Heaven allowed it. Every single thing, big or small, becomes the absolute will of this higher power. They elevate this concept to the point where not worshipping this power is a mortal sin punishable by death. This is an extreme view that appears in many religions. However, this kind of dogmatic view eventually clashes with science and reason, and people become deeply uncomfortable. Look at what happened in India during the pandemic. People prayed to many gods, but the virus devastated their families anyway. Having failed to protect them, these gods were abandoned. People turned their backs, disillusioned. Some even reached the extreme conclusion that they had been worshipping the wrong gods all along. They should be worshipping the COVID virus itself, because it was the one with the real power over life and death. They began building altars to the virus. We are left speechless at the conclusions of the human mind. If you blame everything on an external will, you fall into countless logical dead ends. When a tsunami kills hundreds of thousands of people, who is to blame? Surely not a divine power that is so cruel. A third viewpoint is the Buddhist one. In Buddhism, there are many heavenly realms, each corresponding to a being's level of spiritual cultivation. There are heavenly realms where desire still exists, much like in our human world. This is for beings who have immense merit but have not yet purified their minds of sensual attachment. They are born there to enjoy their good karma. But there are also beings who have cultivated complete purity and transcended all desire. They are born into extremely pure realms, like the form realms and the Brahma worlds, which are free from sensual desire. The Buddhist view is therefore extremely scientific, rational, and moderate. Responsibility always remains with the individual. We must cultivate ourselves. We cannot simply attribute everything to the will of a supernatural being. This is a very insightful perspective. However, there is this to consider: the heavens also have kings. But in truth, you don't even need a king of heaven. Even ordinary celestial beings or devas already possess a kind of power. Power means this: in our human world, power belongs to leaders like presidents and prime ministers, whose decisions affect the fate of an entire nation. But do ordinary people like us have power? Yes, we do. When we have merit, we naturally have a certain power. For example, does a wealthy person have power? Yes. Their most immediate power is the ability to help those in need. If a poor student has no way to get to school, and a rich person gives them money for a bicycle, that is a form of power. The ability to help others is a type of power. The devas in the heavens are the same. Even ordinary devas have the ability to watch over and protect us. Many meditators have experienced this. It's time to wake up for meditation, but you oversleep and suddenly you feel someone gently shaking you awake. Most of the time, that is a deva. Or perhaps you are about to make a terrible decision and a strong, clear thought appears in your mind, stopping you and helping you avoid disaster. That is also the protection of the devas. That is their power. But their power is nothing compared to the power of the King of Heaven, whose influence can shape the destinies of nations and even other worlds. If we compare, we see this. The Buddha is an enlightened being, possessing the quality of a perfected mind, but not the quality of worldly power. The King of Heaven, on the other hand, possesses immense power. So, who is greater? Who is superior? The power of the King of Heaven is vast, while the Buddha appears to have no worldly power at all. He only has enlightenment. So who is superior? Answering this question will define the path you walk. In the scriptures, we find a story. When the Buddha was about to enter his final nirvana, the King of Heaven, Indra, manifested in the form of a small human being to serve him. Indra's true form is colossal, as vast as mountains, but he shrank himself to a human size out of respect. The Buddha asked him, "Why have you come here?" Indra replied, "In these final moments before the world-honored one departs, I wish to serve you." The Buddha then said something remarkable: in this human realm, the foul scent of human beings wafts for a great distance, for 1 yojana, an ancient unit of measure. To us, this sounds strange. We sit next to each other and smell nothing. But to supremely pure beings, this human realm is filled with a foul stench. The Buddha continued, "Why would you come here?" Indra's reply was incredibly moving. "Before the world-honored one departs, I would defy anything to be near you for these last few moments." So here, it is clear, between the Buddha and the King of Heaven, who is superior? The King of Heaven must still revere the Buddha. Why? Because the king has power, but he does not have supreme enlightenment. At the time of the Buddha, King Indra himself had only attained the stage of Sotapanna, the very first fruit of stream entry, the first stage of awakening. Many of the Buddha's disciples, including poor farmers, had also achieved this. This is a remarkable detail. It is because of his wisdom that King Indra understood that the Buddha's enlightenment was what was truly great, while his own power was ultimately ordinary and impermanent. The Buddha is the enlightened one. The fundamental meaning of this enlightenment is absolute, perfect selflessness, anatta. Because the Buddha is completely without a self, the entire universe rests in the palm of his hand. As long as we cling to a self, we are nothing more than insignificant specks of dust. In this world, most beliefs are centered on worshipping a celestial power, while very few are centered on worshipping a Buddha. Why? Because worshipping power is easy to understand. We can relate it to the power of human kings or presidents. Their commands change our fates. It's easy to grasp. We extrapolate that the King of Heaven is the same. His command brings rain or drought, fortune or disaster. It's a simple concept to admire. But to worship a Buddha is to venerate enlightenment. What is enlightenment? It's not easy to understand. This is why the world's beliefs have historically leaned towards what is easy to understand. The people sitting here today, you belong to the minority of humanity, those who have chosen a faith that is difficult to understand, a faith that venerates enlightenment. Does the majority always rule? Is that fair? No, because the majority is not always right. The truth often belongs to the minority. The day the wisdom of humanity rises, people will naturally gravitate away from worshipping power and towards venerating enlightenment. Because enlightenment, though difficult to grasp, is the ultimate truth, the final goal, the absolute shore. To seek for selflessness when all you know is the self is profoundly difficult. But it is the path to understanding that our fate depends not on an external will, but on our own karma. This is the profound and impartial law of the universe. So now let us ask ourselves, will we pursue power or will we pursue enlightenment? Every wise person chooses to pursue enlightenment. Why? The pursuit of power is a zero-sum game, reserved for a tiny few. It leads to conflict, competition, and bloodshed. Two people both seeking power are like two assassins smiling at each other, each hiding a knife behind their back. But the pursuit of enlightenment is infinite. There is no competition. Two people sitting side by side, both seeking enlightenment, will only feel love and support for one another. The more we pursue enlightenment, the more harmonious and happy our lives become. Therefore, we are wise to choose enlightenment. And if we choose enlightenment, we venerate the enlightened one. Even the King of Heaven reveres the Buddha, for enlightenment is greater than power. This is why we say the Buddha is the teacher of gods and humans. Consider this in the sutras. It is said that the great Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara Kwan Am can manifest in any form necessary to help beings as a child, a king, or even as Indra, the King of Heaven. We might simply think, oh, what amazing magical powers. But the meaning is far deeper. To manifest as a being, your merit must be greater than that being's. If you are an ordinary farmer and you declare, I am the president, you will be arrested immediately because you are claiming a status far beyond your merit. But if the actual president, whose merit is vast, humbly says, I am just a public servant, people will only admire his humility. So, if Avalokiteshvara can manifest as the King of Heaven, it means his merit is greater than the King of Heaven's. He can do this because he is an enlightened being, a bodhisattva on the path to Buddhahood. When we venerate enlightenment, we are venerating a state whose merit is boundless, a merit far greater than any worldly power. This world needs less power and more enlightenment. Applause. This world is in chaos precisely because too many people want power. Power is needed only because people are not self-disciplined enough to do what is right. If everyone were enlightened, if everyone automatically did what was good and kind, power would become obsolete. It would simply vanish. That is the nature of the higher, holy realms. A teaching on practice. Now, I want to share something important. I had planned to discuss this on New Year's Eve, but I worry that if I wait, many people will make a mistake. This is for those of you who are making progress in your meditation. Please listen carefully. We follow the Buddha, so we practice meditation. The path of meditation is to take the mind from a state of chaos to a state of tranquility. But many of us experience a problem. You practice hard and your mind becomes calm for a few days. But then it becomes chaotic again. You attain a state of concentration and then you regress. Why? Why don't we keep progressing? The key lies here. There are three things that are incredibly difficult to let go of in our minds. 1. Our assets. We work hard to acquire our property and wealth, so we naturally think this is mine. But a great lay practitioner once said, "From the moment I took refuge in the Buddha, my life belongs to the Buddha." This is the first difficult thought we must cultivate. This asset is not mine. It belongs to the Buddha. This doesn't mean you throw everything away. It means you change your attitude. You will no longer dare to be wasteful or indulgent. You will use every penny in a way that is reasonable and in harmony with the Dharma. That is the first step. 2. Our merit. When we begin to practice well, we do good deeds, we make offerings. We volunteer, we speak kind words. Then we fall into a trap, clinging to our merit. We think, "Look at the good I have done. That was my accomplishment." For me, the biggest temptation is after giving a good sermon to think, "Wow, I am a great speaker." This is a subtle form of pride. We must remember that any good we do is only possible through the silent protection of the Buddhas. So, the second thought we must cultivate is, this merit is not mine, it belongs to the Buddha. Offer it to him. When you let go of clinging to your merit, your heart remains light and your face remains gentle. 3. Our attainments. This is the most important and most dangerous point. When you have practiced the first 2 points, a special state will begin to appear in your meditation. As your wandering thoughts subside, you will experience a mind that is tranquil, empty, light, and blissful. And this is where you can die spiritually, because a very subtle thought will arise, so subtle you may not even notice it. I have attained this. I have achieved this state. The moment you think, "I attain," you die right there. Your progress will stop and you will regress. At that moment, you must continue to use the great mantra, that this state is also not yours. You must cultivate the third and most crucial thought. This tranquil mind is not mine. It belongs to the Buddha. The Buddha himself taught this very humbly in the sutras, saying, "Know the mind as it is. If the mind is tranquil, know that the mind is tranquil." He was telling us not to identify with it, not to claim it as I or mine. Today, we must make it even clearer for ourselves. That mind belongs to the Buddha. When you have that intention, you instantly let go of the idea that I attained it. By doing this, you avoid the mistake, and your practice will no longer regress. So please remember these 3 things. Our assets are not ours. They belong to the Buddha. Our merit is not ours. It belongs to the Buddha. Any supreme meditative state we experience is not ours. It belongs to the Buddha. Please remember this. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.